Good evening, everyone. Had to quiet down the boys in the Zoom room. They're all riled up here tonight for some reason. This is Dick, WB2JP and a Q. East Coast Reflector TechNet number 615 on this April Fool's Day of 2025. And man, do I have a treat for you guys tonight. The A-Team is in here tonight. We put all of our regulars out for the night. Brought in the A-Team. I got Roger, KO4QMM in here with me, and along with Bill, N2BH. So be ready for a good operation here tonight. Everybody else is out on leave for the night. Anyway, as always, this is net number 615. Like I said, we start out with our system facilitators and team leaders. I shouldn't really say system facilitators. We're trying to change that to members. The team, the facilitators fall under the team heading. So anybody that's on our organizational chart is part of the team. So we see if they have any reports. We don't have any silent keys that popped up tonight. So next up will be Joe, who made an appearance here at the top of the hour, KD2TFB, for the Celebrity of the Week. We appreciate Joe coming in every week and talking with us about the Celebrity of the Week. Then I'll go and I'll see if we have any new users to this net. You may have checked in on the TechNet before, or any other net, or just be a user on the system. But if you've never checked into this net, we let you get up at the top of the list. It's the one and only chance that you can do that with. And if for some reason you don't know, it'll come up and it'll flag red for us. That'll be the indicator that you have checked into this net before. So we'll just ask you to fall back in. After that, we take stations with questions. That, of course, is the meat and potatoes for the net, amateur radio related questions. After that, and I apologize, Kevin, for not sending it up to you last week, I sent it up to VE3BZ, Victoria Harbor, Ontario, for any updates for our swap and shop. Down here a few minutes ago, I think he might have something tonight, so that's the lineup. And then after we get done with that, I'm going to turn it over to Roger, and he's going to pick up stations starting with call district number 6. If you're new to us, we go by the call districts, and it's 678901234 right on down through. 5 is last tonight, 5 was first last week. So with that being said, do any of the team members, East Coast Reflector team, have anything that they would like to report tonight? Once again, this is Dick, WB2JP. This is K4KU. Well, good evening, K4KU. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I'd just like to remind everybody that we have the open mic net on Wednesday nights. If you've ever thought about being a net controller, it's a great time to check in, and you can find all the information on the East Coast Reflector website. We're looking forward to seeing you tomorrow night on the open mic net.
Thank you, Jason. And yes, Wednesday nights. I was going to mention that here. I think you did. One of Jason's co-chair areas of responsibility is to make sure that our open mic net goes off every Wednesday night with talent, whether it be talent from previous weeks and hopefully new talent. So there's a form to fill out. We're happy to have anybody that wants to come in, and it's a fun net. And come join us tomorrow night. A couple of announcements that before we see if anyone else has anything from our team is the magazine came out today. Another fun, so beautifully done magazine by Vicky KEPKY and help from others. And you can get it, of course, at eastcoastreflector.com/magazine. eastcoastreflector.com/magazine. Many of you will get it through our groups. But if you don't, that's how you can get it. And if you don't get it, and you'd like to be added to the mailing list, go to the bit.ly address bit.ly/ECR subscribe. ECR subscribe, and it will put you on the list. Unfortunately, you won't get this month, but you will get next month and from then on. So I can mention that as we go on. So anyone else from the team, from the ECR team, have anything that they would like to report this evening? Yeah, good evening, Dan. KD2VNU.
Good evening, Dick. Good evening to everybody on the net. I'd like to remind our users that Friday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the East Coast Reflector Youth Net. Always looking for new youth involved. Any of you guys that are involved in the testing or involved in clubs that are processing new hams that have just got their license or about to get their license, here's an opportunity they can come in if they're licensed, or if they're non-licensed as third party with a licensed amateur, and participate with Luke, Aiden, Grayson, and Ivan. So those are the net controllers for that youth net. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us this evening, and I'll turn it back to the net. This is KD2VNU, and it's 8 p.m. on Friday evening Eastern Standard Time for the youth net. Back to you.
Thank you, Dan. Dan is one of the co-hosts on the youth net, along with Carlos, and the youth are up and coming users, so we certainly want to support their net. Net's been picking up, I think, over the past few weeks. We've been really trying to push it, so come and join us. Let's see, what else do I have tonight? I mentioned the magazine is out. Something that was just added last month is if you go to our YouTube channel, and click on the magazine, it will read it to you. You watch it, it turns the pages for you. You just sit back, put your earphones on or whatever you got back in front of your computer and watch the pages turn as it reads it to you. So that's a really nice feature, because some of these articles are extremely long, and you can just sit back in your easy chair and watch it on your iPad, computer, or whatever. So that's on our YouTube channel. So I guess that's about all I have. Our question tonight was sent in by Joe, N2ZDU, from a Western New Yorker and a friend of mine. I posted yesterday on Facebook asking for questions that we could ask tonight on the TechNet as a general question to ask everybody, and we just picked one. So our question tonight, do you use crimp-on or solder RF connectors? You know, you can solder connectors on, for instance, the BL259, or you can crimp them on. So the question tonight is simply, what do you use? It'll be one or the other. It'll be solder or crimp, and then you're going to tell me that, yes, I crimp, but I always solder the center conductor, and you get an extra point because you always should solder the center conductor if you're using a crimp. So where am I here? I'm up, Joe, you're up next. I lost my place. I get rambling on here with all these advertisements here tonight. So let me turn it over to Joe, KD2FTB, and let's find out who our celebrity of the week is. Good evening, Joe.
Good evening to all those on that frequency. KD2TFB here. I would say I don't have anything but solder-on connectors, so I don't think I'll be crimping anytime soon. Got a bunch of them when I bought my HF rig from my former boss, and he just bunch of parts and stuff. Didn't include any crimp-ons. bunch of cables too. So anyway, as with many of these episodes, the primary source of information is the English language Wikipedia, and therefore is subject to the Creative Commons Attribution Share-alike 4.0 license. Ted was born in Brooklyn, New York, and graduated from Lincoln High School in Cambridge City, Indiana. He first developed an affinity for radio at the age of 5 when he would visit his grandfather, and together they would spend hours tuning around, listening to Morse code, and ship to shore on his grandfather's Philco antique shortwave radio. From those early beginnings, Ted developed a fascination for wireless and loved to experiment with antennas. At the age of 13, after he fractured his leg playing football, his grandmother gave him a short radio which helped keep him occupied while his leg was healing. He acquired his ticket, and while in high school, he began teaching adults Morse code. We'll let the repeater drop so we don't time out there. Ted was among the first graduates of Purdue University's National Science Foundation Engineering Research Center, where he co-authored the proposal that resulted in the National Science Foundation Award presented to Purdue by President Ronald Reagan. He wrote one of the first widely used communication textbooks for academia and industry, and has co-authored textbooks on simulation, smart antennas, and millimeter wave wireless communications. He is a co-inventor on more than 100 U.S. and international patents that have or are pending, and has advised or launched high-tech companies in the wireless communication and computing fields, and 2 university spin-off companies. This week's Celebrity Call Sign of the Week is November Niner, November Bravo, N9NB, belonging to Ted Rappaport, the pioneer in cellular 5G, that's 5th generation communications. Kilo Delta 2 Tango Fox Bravo, back to net control.
Oh, thank you, Joe. Another good bit of information to get stored in our memory banks. We appreciate you coming in here every week. I just got a flag from our database. We had 59 new users this past week. Simple math says that's 8.4 a day. Last year we averaged 9 users a day, 9 new users a day. And the year before that it was 7 point something. So 8.4 is right in the ballpark. And unfortunately, out of those 59, only 34 had email addresses on QRZ. So we could not send a welcome letter only to such a few people. 34 did not have email addresses, so it's too bad. Or 34 did have email addresses, I should say. So we remind everybody, please go to your QRZ.com page and make sure it's a current email address. Many people will belong to the ARRL for a year. They'll use the the ARRL email address, and then they will drop off of ARRL, but they'll never replace the ARRL address, and they don't realize that it goes off that you're no longer a member. Let's move on to stations that have never checked into this net before. If you've never checked into this net, the TechNet before, we'd like to get you up at the top and let you come in and say hello. So stations that have never checked into this net, your call signs twice and slowly. Once again, this is Dick, WB2JPQ.
November 2, Victor Lima Kilo. November 2, Victor Lima Kilo.
NA4DA, November Alpha 4 Delta Alpha.
Kilowatt Alpha 2, Mike Alpha Tango. Kilowatt Alpha 2, Tango. Net control. Check kilo. Set. 4. Oscar. Uniform. X-ray. That's KQ4O. Let me grab it here for a minute, guys and gals. The last station, KQ4OUX, we got you, but you started to double with another station. So I'm going to ask, who was the station that was after KA2MAT? And then Vincent came in, and the station that doubled with the last station, please. Romeo, Tango, Quebec. Kilo Bravo, 0, Romeo, Tango, Quebec. 0, Romeo, Tango, Quebec. We got that. I got an idea. I talked to you today. Maybe not coming up on QRZ, but we'll figure that out in a minute. KB0, RTQ. KQ4OUX. We got Joe, KA2MAT, Andrew, NA4DA, and Jeff from Lancaster, New York, N2VLK. Start us out tonight. Good evening to you, Jeff. And if you haven't heard our question, it's, do you use crimp-on or solder type connectors? N2VLK, Jeff, good evening. Go right ahead. Which do you use, solder or crimp-on connectors, RF connectors?
Yeah, so I just want to sit on the side, listen and see how things go and how things operate. Hopefully I'll hang around. With that, I'll say 7-3 and turn it back to you, Dick. Thank you.
Jeff, answer our question, would you please? Do you use solder or solderless RF connectors? That's our question for tonight.
I use solder on connectors.
Thank you, Jeff, for being here tonight. Good evening to Andrew in Anthony, Florida. NA4DA, good evening to you.
It is Andy, and outside of Ocala. Very nice to meet you at the Ocala hamcation. Just wanted to let you know that we are now carrying the TechNet on Tuesday nights, along with the Morning Brew on our repeater here locally in Ocala. And I use the Quicksilver system of crimp-on, and I do solder the pin. And I highly recommend the Quicksilver system. I have a contest station at home, and I've made probably 40 different jumpers going from bandpass filters and such things. And boy, the crimped connectors just work great on everything from RG400, RG8X, and also on the big stuff as well, the RG8 and 213 and LMR 400. I use them all. Back to you, Dick, NA4.
Well, thank you, Andy, and yes, it was great to meet you in Orlando, and hopefully we'll see you there next year. We have a Dayton coming up here next month, and hard to believe that it's only a little over a month away, and that's our next adventure. So thank you, and thanks for carrying the East Coast Reflector. We certainly appreciate it. Without people like you and others there would be no East Coast Reflector. We just do our part. All the field people do theirs, and that's what makes it all come together. That goes for anybody. Thank you to everyone that makes this all possible. I guess we don't thank our people often enough. And I've said this a million times in my lifetime. If there's a repeater in your area that doesn't have a lot of activity, that you would think would be a good repeater to connect to the East Coast Reflector, approach the repeater owner and make a proposal to him and ask him if he would consider, for instance, putting an all-star node on if there is no other gateway. Some people have IRLP nodes that haven't been turned on for years, and all they have to turn them on and connect to 9050 on IRLP. It's that simple. But so that's everybody's homework assignment. Go out and I wrote that up several times on Dick's Corner on our magazine. Go out and do some campaigning for us. See what you can do. The more the merrier. And you might find by approaching somebody, they will say, yes, good idea. And connect up, if not full-time, part-time, or at least for net. Let's move on to John, NA2MAT. Good evening to you, sir. What about you in connectors, solder or crimp? Sorry, that's Joe, not John. Pardon me.
Well, I'm just going to check. I assume you mean that it's KA2MAC. And if that is the case, yes, solder. I no longer crimp. I had one fail on a crimp. That was enough. Now I go back to the more established way, at least one that I feel works better. Back to you.
Is the correct answer, Joe. I'm sorry, I had everything minimized here on my screen, and I slid it over a little bit too much, and I guess I called you Jim or something else or whatever, but it is definitely Joe. Thank you for being there. Vincent, Columbia, North Carolina, KQ40UX. Good evening.
Good evening, Dick. Yeah, like I said, I've been always using solder connectors ever since the CB days, I can tell you. I just don't have, like it says, any real faith in those crimp connectors. I had a couple of them myself, like I said, and it's nothing like, using the old-fashioned way of doing it. I do it with the solder. Like I said, it works out the best way. Like I said, I'm a Columbus firefighter down here in Columbus, and I work on a lot of radios down here, like I said, and when I ever have to go build a cable, whatever, for anybody, I usually use the solder connector, and I know, like it says, they can heat them up or whatever, like it says, and normally you won't break, the connections on those. So I definitely like, the solder connectors back to net control.
And we got you down for solder. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a first-time user to the TechNet. KB0RTQ. I think we have that call sign right. If it's wrong, please correct it. Good evening.
Yes, I don't have a QRZ. That's coming up as an error. If you go to the FCC look up, you'll see that it is valid. And just renewed a few weeks ago, as a matter of fact. Name is Dan Alpha November, located in Fort Dodge, Iowa. And first time checking into the net. First time actually hearing about the East Coast Reflector earlier this week. So I've been kind of listening off and on this week. So really enjoying it so far. I would have to say that my crimp, and then I solder the Cetra connector because my soldering skills are not that good. And if I'm going to be completely honest, a lot of times I will cheat and buy pre-made cables with the soldering already done, and then I'll check the continuity when I get it home. But that's my answer. Back to net control. KP0RTQ.
Well, then you might get a prize tonight. That's a very, very, very a must. That's the Cable Building 101. Always check for continuity. And always check before you put any connectors on. And then when you put the first one on, be sure to check after the first one. Don't put the second one on. Then it's a 50-50 crapshoot. Which one am I going to cut off to find out which one is shorted? So, good answer, Dan. Thank you for being with us. Who else do I have? Stations that were checked in to this net before. Please give me your call sign twice. This is Dick, WB2JPQ.
KJ5KIE. KJ5KIE.
KR4CLU.
I got you, Cody. K5KIE. The other station was CLE or something like that. Your complete call sign twice, please. CLE only. I'm sorry, the CLU. The CLU suffix only, please. Yeah, the CLU as a suffix. Could we please get your complete call sign?
Sorry about that. KR4CLU. KR4CLU.
Go KR4CLU. Fayetteville, North Carolina. All right, let me go up, or let's go out to Texas. KJ5KIE. Good evening, Cody, and welcome to the East Coast Reflector TechNet. And what do you use, solder-on or crimp-on connectors?
Well, I never had to do that for a piece of coax yet, but when I do, I would rather just solder it on.
All right, Bill's got you down for solder. He's making the big decisions here tonight. Thank you for being there. KR4CLU, Fayetteville, North Carolina. You are new to the net, of course, and new to the system. You've never been in the system before, and our system has flagged you as you do not current email address on QRZ. So as I say to everyone, that's a little homework assignment. Good evening. For CLU, are you still with us? I don't know how he could disappear so quick. I guess we'll just mark him as a drive-by. Who else do we have tonight that would like to get in here that has never checked into the net before? Call signs twice and slowly if you've never checked into to this net before.
KJ5KIQ Kilo Juliet. That's KC1 Quebec. PJQ. Chris in Connecticut.
All right, we got Ryan. It looks like Ryan, KJ5KIQ in McKinley, Texas. Who was the station that doubled with Ryan?
KC1 PJQ. KC1 PJQ. Chris, Connecticut.
8 OAY, November 8, Oscar Alpha Yankee, Huntsville, Alabama.
Kilo Echo 4, Alpha Tango Romeo, KE4 ATR, John, Orlando.
KR4 CLU, Taylor, Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Steve, Kilo November 4, Delta Uniform X-Ray, Villages, Florida.
Zero Golf Mike Sierra Gary. Let's hold up here. Let's hold up, and then I recognize from the top down we got Ryan KJ5KIQ. We got that doesn't quite look right. I think that might have been KC1. No, that's not right. Anyways, the KC1 station. You get your call sign twice. The KC1 station. It might have been PJ, something like that. KC1 only, please. Golf Mike. The KC1 station. Could I get your call sign twice, please? The KC1 station only. Hold on, but I'm pretty sure it's KC1PJQ. I don't know why you can't tell us, but we'll move on. We'll come back to you in a minute. We got David, N8OAY. We got John in Orlando, KE4ATR. KR4CLU, I guess, came back in. And KO4GSM. Let me go up to the top here to Ryan in McKinley, Texas, KJ5KIQ. Good evening, Ryan.
Good evening, and it's good to hear from everybody. I hope I'm coming through well. I'm on a PVC pipe DIY antenna that I made today, so I'm hoping to get a little better for my room. I usually have to get on a roof. I'm actually up in Grand Rapids, Michigan studying for school, so I just soldered some on today. So I'm going to say soldered. I think it's always a more solid connection. Crimps are good, but solder is just the way to go. This is KJ5KIQ back to net control. It's also good to hear from you, Cody.
Oh, thank you. Solder it is. Let's go up to Connecticut, KC1PJQ. Good evening, Christopher.
Back to your net control. This is KC1PJQ.
Right. N8OAY. We have the call right. Why wrong? Just fix it. But I think it's N8OAY. Well, let's get that off of here and see if we can get a hold of N8OAY.
For the last 15 years or so, I've been buying pre-made cables.
So I take it, well, you probably get down for solder, so I guess that's all good. I didn't hear the solder, but I heard pre-made cables. So thank you for being here, David, and We'll move on to John in Orlando, KE4ATR. Good evening, John. And you're also new to the system. Thank you for being there. Good evening.
Thanks, appreciate it. Good evening to everyone. I will do my homework. For less than 100 watts, I do the crimp-on. I do a lot of commercial, industrial installations. Anything more than 100, go with solder, basically same company, and but that's my 2 cents worth. Just had a lot of good luck with the less than 100 watts for the crimp-on type. Back to net control. Thank you.
Crimp it is. Back to Fayetteville, North Carolina. I guess did we miss you on the first round? KR4CLU.
We're getting some interference for some odd reason, but yeah, I'm listening in.
Would you care to answer our question? Do you use crimp-on or solder RF connectors? Move on to York, South Carolina. KO4GSM. Guess we're batting zero. KO4GSM. Walter in York, South Carolina. Are you still with me? Something that resembles a GSM in case we had it wrong. Let's take somebody else, see who else we have. It's quite a number tonight that's new to this net. That's wonderful. We got 400 connections here tonight. That's not hurting the situation either. Who else do I have? Last call for stations that have never checked in to this net before. Please give us your call sign twice. We'll get back to you. And if you've never checked in, call signs twice and slowly, please.
Kilo India, WB4GX, Whiskey Bravo 4, Delta X-Ray.
We got you, John, in the Villages, WB4DX, and there was a killing station, a station that doubles with John, please.
Victor Echo 6, Sierra Kilo India. Victor Echo 6, Sierra Kilo India.
6SKI. David, we got you. Anyone else?
Kilo November 4, Delta Uniform X-Ray, Steve in the Villages.
Good job, Bill. Man, I didn't get that one. KN4DUX. Steve in the Villages. All right, let's go up to the top here. Good evening to John, also in the Villages. WB4DX. Hi, John. And use on or solder type connectors?
Good evening, Dick. Solder all the way. I don't want to crimp on or RF. No way. Back to that.
Thank you, John. Good evening to David. Albert. Very good. VE6SK KI.
The net, and I actually moved over to crimp. I've done a lot of solder, and I've taken the plunge into the crimp side. The E6SKI up in Canada.
Well, thank you, David. Should be interesting to see how this comes out tonight. I didn't mention this, but as most of you know, or I hope most know, you can follow along on our fetch log. Again, I can give you a bit.ly address, bit.ly/ECR logs. ECR logs. And you can obviously go to TechNet and follow along with us. There's a lot of information on that page. If you don't want to use the bit.ly address, go to eastcoastreflector.com, go to nets, find the appropriate net, and there's a little box there to click on that will take you into the fetch log. Steven, another one from the villages. The villages are popular here tonight. KN4DUX. Good evening.
Good evening to everyone on the net. My name is Steve. I'm new to this net. I actually just set my antenna. I put a Diamond X50 up in the crawl space up above my garage. And I'm trying to see how it works out here tonight. And I use crimp connectors.
Well, yeah, I think you're doing pretty good. You're getting into the Leesburg, Florida repeater. Do have a little bit of noise on here, but it's been tough over the years from the villages into Leesburg. They took several hundred feet off. I don't know, 100 feet, but they took quite a bit off of it. No, it wasn't 100 feet. They took quite a bit off of that tower, and it did decrease the coverage, obviously, a little bit. So it's working. You do have a little bit of noise on you. All right, I'll take one more call for stations that have never checked into this net before. We got to keep going here. So last call for stations that have never checked into this net before.
Here is Kilo November 4, Charlie Victor, KN4CV. KJ5 JSL, that's Kilo Juliet 5, Juliet Sierra Lima, Matthew in Oklahoma.
Well, great, Matthew and in Hollywood, Florida. Boy, this is a success story here tonight. We did not have one person come up in red. Everybody knew that they hadn't been in here before. Vicky will be pleased to hear that. I think that's the first time in a long, long time. Good evening to Richard, Hollywood, Florida, 4CV. And same goes to you, Richard, same question. Crimp or solder on?
Well, good evening to the net, and I go by Rick. Richard's fine. Call me anything you want, just not late for dinner. I used to crimp my old DB25s and DB9s all the time because it was the easiest way, and then insert them into the body of the plug. But if I could solder it, it would be much better, and I could solder it well. But those were really not solderable types of connectors.
All right, Rick, and by the next time you call, you log in, you check in, it will be Rick in our database. We can change it. It just takes 24 hours to get it changed. So once so that is filed away, the log sheet's filed away, and all the new people are added to the database, you will be known as Rick. Last on this is Matthew, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, KJ5JSL.
Well, I'm a new ham, so I have only had one opportunity to do any soldering. That was years ago with just a little breadboard and
messing around with a potentiometer and making a circuit to turn an LED light up and down, you know, with the voltage. And it wasn't pretty, but it got the job done. I still have it in my little keepsakes, but haven't had a whole lot of opportunities. No tools yet for soldering, but got a, you know, like a Beagle Bone Black that gives me a little more headers that I can kind of do some projects with. But definitely something I'm interested in doing with soldering, and maybe even looking at clip-on options too. So not a whole lot here, just new to the hobby, trying to do it one step at a time and do the marathon, not the race. Back to net.
Well, thank you, Matthew, and I guess the same goes for you. You flagged up with no email address on your QRZ.com page, so I'm going to give you the same homework as I've given some others here, and I probably didn't mention this about everybody, but you know who you are if you don't have a current email address on your QRZ page. Shame on you, as they say. So thanks. We had eight new users, 8 new users that have never checked in anywhere on this East Coast Reflector. So that's a pretty good representation. So 8 new users. All right, let's get to the meat of tonight's TechNet stations with an amateur radio related question. If you have an amateur radio related question that you'd like us to field for you and put out, and I'm not sure if David or Charles, who is here tonight, but we'll do our best to get an answer for you. So stations with an amateur radio related question, please give us your call sign twice. And once again, this is Dick, WB2JPQ.
Whiskey 3, Bravo Radio Lima. Whiskey 3, Bravo Radio Lima.
Whiskey 4, Foxtrot, Whiskey November, W4F, WN.
Good evening to my friend Dan from Sanford, Florida. In New Kensington, Pennsylvania, W3BRL. To start us out tonight. Good evening, and what's your question for the group?
Good evening to the East Coast Reflector. To answer your question, always solder. I use the K3LR method to solder. But anyway, on to my question. I'm fortunate enough that I'm able to put a VHF UHF antenna on the top of my roof at work, and it'll probably be a Diamond X50. But I'm curious about what my best mounting option there. So I'm getting some pressure-treated 2x6 and ram set that into the side of the building onto the brick there, and attach probably a stick of 10-foot rigid 1 1/4-inch conduit, and attach that Diamond X50 onto that. I'm curious if anyone has any suggestions or any ideas, or if anyone's like, oh, don't do that. That's a bad idea. So I'm curious if there's any knee-jerk reactions to what I just said. Back to net.
KC6 UFM.
There you go. There's Charles, and I'm going to refer your question right to Charles, Bradley. Good evening, Charles.
Good evening, Dick, and everyone on the TechNet tonight. This is Charles, K for the UFM. And Brady, what you're thinking of is going to work just fine for you. The only thing I would mention is be sure to have a way to have a safety ground on that. Yeah, I mean, it's wonderful that your employer is going to let you do that to their building, but you know, to kind of protect them and protect your equipment, that's going to need a direct path to ground for safety reasons.
So, if that, probably the best way to do that is going to be run down the side of the building. If possible, position the antenna near the service entrance for the electrical coming into the building, and you can run right straight down and tie right into the utility ground system, and that's going to take care of that factor. That will certainly work. Another couple of things for you to consider, however, is some sort of a tripod on the roof, and that can either be bolted to the roof, or I've seen people get by with just using multiple sandbags on them. It kind of depends upon how much wind you get there in that particular part of Pennsylvania. I'm not familiar with it, but if your winds aren't too bad, that might be another option for you to go with. Back over to you, Dick, KC6 UFM.
Well, thank you, Charles. Bradley, did that help settle your mind?
Well, yes it did. And I'm running a 10 gauge or an 8 gauge or 10 or 8 gauge ground wire down to the electrical panel. Shouldn't be too big of a deal, especially because I'm the one work, so there should be no problem there. Anyway, thanks for answering my question, KC6 UFM and everyone on the net. I appreciate it, and I'll turn it back to you guys. Thanks so much.
Charles, thank you, Bradley, for your question. Let's go down to Sanford, Florida. Good evening, Dan, W4FWN. I'll bet this is going to be a digital question.
Well, good evening, Dick. Everyone else on the net. No surprise, it's going to be an HF question. Has anyone on the net connected a ZU G90 to an amplifier that's anything else except the ZU amplifier? And if they have, what have they used for an antenna tuner, and what antenna do they use that was successful? My question, and back to net control, W4FWN.
Good question. A lot of those G90s out there, and everybody that has them that I know of are using the amp that you can get along with it. But let's field the question. Who can help Dan out with his HF G90 question, amplifier, and what do you use for a tuner?
Whiskey Oscar. Okay.
The Whiskey Oscar 4 station is all here. Please key up. Wait a second. Give us your call back.
Pretty sure you called up for me. There is some doubling up on transmission there. It's Whiskey Oscar 7 X-ray. Am I alright to give my comment?
Evening, Joe. Sure, you sure are. Well, you care to answer our question if you use a crimp or solder coax connectors, and we'll let you comment once you answer our question. Good evening.
Good evening to you as well. I use the crimp connectors for most of my applications. It depends on what I'm using it for, but for most connectors, except for some specific ones, I use and yeah, I solder the center connector on all of them, and I've learned that through trial and error. Didn't have anybody to help show me how to make those, so I messed up a lot of cables. Forgive me because I don't have the part number or the serial number, model number rather, for the specific amplifier I'm talking about. But if you go on and you search for, I'm not sure exactly what you're looking for, but if you just want something to get you past the 20 watts, that G90 will do. They're these, you can find them on Alibaba as well. Just search HF amplifier kit, 100 watts. They make them up to like 80, 100 watts, and then I think 150 and 200 watts. I've only ever built the 100 and 150 watt ones. They're about 20 bucks a piece, and they're not, they're pretty reliable for cheap Chinese electronics. I'll see if maybe I can dig up the part number for them. I just went on eBay and searched for HF amplifier kit, and it was one of the very first things that come up. It's just a kit, comes with a printed circuit board and all of the components you need and some directions on how to make it into an amplifier. And they take in up to, like, I think it's 500 milliwatts to 500 or to 5 watts rather, and they output 80 to 150. And so that worked for me. This is the Xiegu G90. I use the X6100, but that worked for me. As far as tuning goes, I've not really had any crazy issues with tuning on the 6100 because that thing will tune up anything. I just use I make balance and unends and do some calculations and try and get myself as close to under 3 to 1 as I can, and just use the internal tuner. So sorry I can't be of any help there, but yeah, check that eBay, take a look at the HF amplifier kits, and like I said, I'll come back later if I can dig up the model number. This is Whiskey Oscar 7 X-ray. Thanks again.
Thank you for your comment, but you cannot use the internal tuner if you put an amplifier on the radio. All the internal tuner is doing is tuning the coax between the transmitter and the amplifier. Thanks for being here. Anybody else got an idea? Try to help Don out. I meant Dan. Thank you, Dan. Let's see how the rest of the net goes. Somebody will have a comment. You know how that goes. Sometimes throughout the general check-in, somebody will have a comment for you. But we'll see what we can do here. Who else has got an amateur radio related question? Call signs twice. This is Dick, WB2JPQ.
Hello, Fox 4, Alpha Charlie Bravo.
Yeah, KF4, could we have your call sign twice, please? The KF4.
Yes, KF4, ACB, Kilo Fox 4, Alpha Charlie Bravo.
Alpha Charlie Bravo. Good evening, Kerry. And we'll take your question, but if you could answer ours so we could get that logged in here tonight. Use crimp solder type connections, and please ask us your question.
I've never used the crimpos. What experience I've had with it, something I've ordered that's been crimped on, hasn't been very pleasant, so I never use it. I always use the solder method. Although I have to admit I'm not very good at soldering.
We got you down for solder. And what is the question, the amateur radio related question that you have for us tonight?
Another net was interrupting me there for a minute in the shack. I do, and it's maybe a little off track, but it's just a repair question. I have an ICOM 910 satellite radio, and I believe the finals to burn out in it. I cannot find anybody anywhere that works on that radio. Even ICOM, they've got to where they won't support the radio radios anymore. Not unless they're 2010 and beyond. And I just wanted to know if maybe somebody somewhere might know somebody that can work on that radio for me.
That's a fair question, Terry. Let's see if we can help you out. Anybody know of anybody that would work on an ICOM 910? I'm not sure what that is. I think you said satellite radio. Anybody help Terry out? Doesn't sound like it, Terry. Unfortunately, we have over 400 here tonight, so there's tons of people listening, but doesn't look like anything to go in your corner tonight. But like I told Dan, you never know. Hang on. People sometimes in the general check-ins come up and will answer that question. So once again, Terry's looking for somebody to repair an ICOM 910. Whatever that is, I'm not sure what that is, but thanks for your question, Terry, and we'll see what we can do for you as the night goes on. Anyone else have an amateur radio related question?
A3NW.
We got John, the A3NW. The station that came through the YSF bridge, all we heard was Sierra. So key up, wait a couple seconds, and give us your call sign twice, please. The station that's on the YSF bridge only.
Roger, this is Kilo Zero Golf Mike Sierra. Kilo Zero Golf Mike Sierra, Gary.
Gary, we got you. From Nebraska City. Let me go to John. He's first up tonight, VA3NW. Good evening, you John. Again, answer our question and go ahead with yours.
Hey, my question is, the feller that has the ICOM 910, what's his problem? Because I have an ICOM 910. And I accidentally transmitted into a short-circuited antenna. Not transmitted, but, what do you call it there? Turned on the preamp. And I burnt out something in the preamp circuit. Now it won't transmit on 2 meters. So, I'm trying to figure out how to fix this. If anybody knows, that's my dilemma, is I have an ICOM 910. And, it won't transmit on 2 meters. And I need this radio back. There's a lot of sideband activity in my area.
One thing at a time. Terry, why don't you rephrase your question to John? What are you looking for one more?
Thank you very much. It is ICOM 10, and apparently it kind of dovetails into the question about the coax. Apparently the connector got loose on the main coax, and I think I'm transmitting on 2 meters, and I probably only ran about 20 watts at the most. I did talk to somebody quite a bit on 5.2, and I might have turned the power up a little bit there, but I think I burned the finals out on my 910. And in answer to your query a while ago about the 910 and what it is, it's a 2 meter 440 single side FM radio that tracks satellites, and it's also just a really nice big base station type radio that ICOM came out with, I guess pre-2010, obviously, where they'd work on it for me. But I hope that answers the question. Okay, I have a 910. I've had it for a decade, so I know the radio. I know what it'll do.
Mine, the finals work, but something, it won't transmit because I burnt out something when I turned the preamp on, and I had a DC short circuit antenna, and well, the preamp circuit puts DC up the coax, and of course it went into a short circuit, so that's my dilemma. So I have one where that part's burnt out. You have one where the finals are burnt out. You want to get together and make a perfect one?
Yeah, we'll trade halfway and activate some area or a park or something maybe every now and then.
K8BWK okay, with back to that control, VA3NW.
Good evening, K8BWK. Got you in there with the comment. Don't run away, John and Gary. Ben's in here with the comment. Go ahead, Ben.
Thanks, Dick. Either one of these gentlemen tried reaching out to ICOM. They have various repair shops throughout the United States, depending on where you're located, that they work with. I don't know, calling ICOM America Direct. Thanks, Dick. K8BWK.
The first thing that I tried to do.
Too old, they want to call it 2000.
Email.com America.
They say that's too old.
They said they don't support radios like that anymore. They don't support anything before 2010. I did find somebody to work on an ICOM 736 for me. I've got it shipped off right now, HF rig. But I asked him if he worked on the 910. He said no. I worked with somebody on DX the other night and went to his page or his head, and it's been ham radio repair. And he was well spoken of, and I emailed him, and he said he didn't work on the 910 either.
Solution here tonight. Again, as we go on here through the night, somebody might pop up with some help for both of you. Thanks, Ben, for chiming in there. Last call for stations with an amateur radio related question.
K4MMX.
K4MMX, go ahead. K4MMX, go ahead.
I think I'm having technical difficulty here. Do you hear me now?
Hear you fine. I don't know what's going on there with MMX, but do I have anybody else? I said that was the last call, but let me take somebody else. Anybody else got a question here tonight?
Victor Echo 3, Zulu X-ray Uniform Mobile.
E3ZXU. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. I'm calling in from Trenton, East Trenton, on the base here, member of the base here. Question for anyone. I have an old Kenwood GM707, and FETs have gone, transistors have gone, and anyone can suggest a parts supplier for FETs. I do have the part numbers here, but I'd have to look at my camera. Let's see if I can bring it up. If anyone wants to know particularly what those numbers are, I can say it, but yeah, I'm looking to replace those FETs for the VHF and UHF side of the radio there. Go ahead.
Put it out to the group. I'll see what we can do here, but obviously they're going to be unique to the radio. Anybody have a clue what the FETs are in the TM707 for the UHF VHF portions? You're talking the front end FETs, I assume.
Final amplifier MOSFET's numbers are 2 Sierra Delta 1423 and 2 Sierra Delta 1424. That one's on the UHF side. Anyone know where a reputable supplier of those MOSFETs? Over.
Well, nobody's stepping up to the plate here, but have you done the obvious? Have you looked for it online?
Yeah, I've done some research online. There are replacement parts. I think they were running $20 US. The shipping would definitely kill me. I'd rather spend that in a day going and making a day of it and getting parts, or even running up to anyone's location just for the fun of a Saturday, picking up any of those sets. They're over.
Things sometimes people sit and Google things while the net's going on. Perhaps later they'll have an answer for you, but certainly nobody's stepping up to the plate. And I didn't have time to look it up here. I'm sure you'll find something online.
We have a rare repair shop, part of our section on base here, and they do repairs for all sorts of equipment, Motorola's and Datrons and Harris and Road and Schwartz, and in fact they have a whole bin of transistors and MOSFETs, and they don't even use those particular MOSFETs. But I figured I'd come on air here and ask anyways. Thank you so much for the airtime. This is Victor Echo 3 Zulu X-Ray Uniform Mobile. Thank you again.
Well, hold on here. We got an answer for you. Good evening, David. K4FXC.
Yeah, good evening. I get in there kind of late tonight. It's just, I was just trying to get the part numbers again. I believe it was 2SD 1423 and 1424. Was that correct? Are those the preamp transistors for the receiver, or are you talking about the transistors for the PA? Those I think are pretty small for the, or you know, this must be for the receiver you're asking about. K4FXC.
Those MOS are the final amplifiers, and I'll say again, part numbers 2 Sierra Delta 1423 and 2 Sierra Delta 1424. Over.
Okay, I did a search for those part numbers, and it looks like those are small signal transistors. Those aren't the finals, I don't think. Unless I'm getting something back here other than, well, you know, looks like the 14, they're both like small signal transistors, not the finals. But whatever the case, Semiconductors from that era, MOSFETs in particular, have gone just virtually completely unimpanium. And certainly the finals, I've got a couple 707s as well. They're unfortunately, if they fail, they're likely to be unrepairable because unless you find a donor radio to get parts out of, you're unlikely to find the exact replacement transistors. And that's the case with all kinds of stuff. A lot of MOSFETs from the early 90s, late 80s, which have just gone completely extinct at this point. But not sure about that part number. I believe that's a small signal transistor. That doesn't look like a RF transmitting and MOSFET for a final K4FXC.
That's fine. I'm not going to discuss the different sources here, but that's fine. Really do appreciate your time looking at that, and I think I have a wonderful 707 receiver for VHF and UHF for weather. That's fair, very fair. Thank you so much once again. Victor Echo 3, Zulu X-ray Uniform.
I think you ought to look at that schematic again. I think David's right from the little research we've done here in the control room. Everybody's shaking their head. I think you're looking at the preamp sets and not the final output RF transistors. Thanks for your question. I'll take one more. I said that before, but I want to give everybody a fair chance here. Anybody else have an amateur radio related question?
Zero GMS, I've got a question.
GMS or something like that, your call sign twice, and we'll be happy to take your question.
Zero microphone. I give you an answer. I guess you need an answer. I solder. So if you want to put that to answers, but what if meter intent somebody might suggest or recommend for
Bridge. You're coming in on digital. Ask that question again. You're looking for a recommendation. We did get the solder connectors that we got, or is that ART? K04 GMS, maybe that's ART. But regardless, your ART, if it's ART, we're not getting what you're saying. And give us your call sign twice if you would, please, and try to ask that question one more time.
Roger. I'm line 30. Yeah. I'm looking for a vertical POTA antenna recommend.
I guess you're looking for a UHF, VHF, POTA antenna. Is that what it is? You're very, very difficult to read. If it's Gary GMS, we guess it's Gary. Is that what you're looking for? A UHF, VHF, POTA antenna? Sorry, sir. You're just unreadable. You're just unreadable through the DMR bridge. I don't know if you can get over to analog. I don't know exactly where you are. If we have the call sign correct, you're coming in from Nebraska City. But you're just unreadable. Anyone else? One more question we'll take here tonight. I keep saying that. Don't want to cut anybody short. Anybody else? The amateur radio related Zulu X-ray uniform mobile.
6 Charlie Whiskey India. KD6 CWI. Good evening.
Ruben, KD6 CWI.
And thank you for doing the net, sir. The question is auto tuners for the Mercury Lux fire. So the Mercury Lux has a tuner, which is the ATS, which is a 5-to-1 tuner. Other than the Pulsar, which is really high on the pricing, are there any other automatic tuner that would match the Mercury Lux at 1.5 kilowatts? That's a little bit better than the 5-to-1, which is made by Mercury. Recommendation on a tuner on the Mercury Lux other than the Mercury ATS, not as a high price point as a Pulsar. Pulsar is running around $1,500 to $1,600.
Put it out there, Ruben. Anybody have a suggestion for Ruben on the tuner?
K4FXC.
Hi, David.
Yeah, I have a Pulsar. I have the earlier auto tuner. In fact, I got a couple of them, and they work very nicely behind legal limit amplifiers. I have not used any of the switched L network, relay switched L network amplifiers with anything. Tuners with any legal limit amplifier, and I would be really concerned to do so. I know a lot of the legal limit LDMOS amplifiers. They I won't say they're delicate at all, but they definitely don't like highly or any kind of load issue when they're transmitting. So I would be I would gravitate, if you want an auto tuner, toward the Pulsar or something similar in the legal limit type range. Particularly when you're talking about 5-to-1 SWR, I would be concerned for running a risk of damaging the amplifier, and it's they definitely can put out a lot of power. I've got an RF kit, 2KS, and running behind a Pulsar. I've tried that and it works great. But I don't think there's any other unit on the market that I would go towards, commercially auto tuner wise. K4FXC.
Thank you, David. Ruben, I don't know if that was any help to you, but probably not what you wanted to hear.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's why I asked the question, because the Mercury ATS is a 5-to-1, and I think the Pulsar is like 8-to-1. I'm not so sure, but I know it's higher than 5-to-1. It's 8-to-1 or 9-to-1. I'm not sure. The difference in price between the Mercury ATS is around under 900, 800 plus something, and availability is scarce. And so the only between that is probably a higher price range, which is probably a Flex. There's a Flex tuner, and there is also an Elecraft tuner. Those other two high-end tuners, because that was the reason I asked the question, because the other stations just explained it. You can't just use any tuner and running legal limit amplifiers. So I think
you have to spend a little bit higher, like close to a Polestar or a Flex tuner or an Elecraft. Stay safe, stay healthy, enjoy life, and God bless everyone. Thank you for letting me participate. 73 KD6 CWI.
Thank you, Ruben. Let me go up to K4MMX and see if he got his problem fixed here. Craig, are you still with us, K4MMX?
Yeah, I'm still here, but I'm not sure what's going on.
Make your question if you have it ready.
What I'm looking for, does anybody sell a solution to power a Bofang radio off of 12 volts when using it as a node radio for a half duplex, node? I mean, the obvious thing is to stick it in the charger. That is not really the right thing to do. Is there any way, does anybody make something that will just slide on the back of the radio and plug 12 volts into it and it has a regulator in it and battery terminals and all that? I can give this specific model if need be, or tell me where to search.
Good question. Anybody help Craig out? Looking for a battery eliminator for a Bofang.
W4FW.
Dan, go right ahead. I should have said that from, oh no, did he say from 12 volts or did he? Yeah, I assumed from 12 volts. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, okay, Dick. Well, I've been able to procure mine on eBay. I got them for the UV5R, and I also have an AR5RM with the new battery that has the charging port, the USB-C charging port on the back of it. I also found one of those. I run that mobile, and as soon as I fire up the car, the radio comes up, and as soon as I finish it, acts just like a mobile rig, except it's of course an HD. What model Bofang are you talking about?
Well, it's an oddball one. It's UV-S9. That's UV-Sierra 9. It's a tri-band radio, VHF 220 and 440, and I like the 220 aspect of it, so I can't really use it on my node because the battery runs dead too quick.
Well, I'm not familiar with the UV-S9, I must say. I don't know, I'd have to look that one up, but for the longest while I could not find a battery for mine until just recently on Amazon. So, I don't know. A little bit more about your battery. Does it have a C connection on the back of it? And does it interface with any other radio that you might be able to find that it fits one battery fits multiple radios?
No, it's unique, only for this one radio. I mean, I could break out the soldering iron and use a buck converter and just solder right to the terminals where the battery would normally connect, and that might be the best thing to do anyway, because especially during the morning brew, the radio will get nice and hot, and by having the battery off of it with a fan on it, maybe I just answered my own question.
Okay, well, I can't help you too much if it's a unique radio, but anyway, I was able to find it for mine, but if radios in that newer line. Okay, back to net control. I didn't mean to throw it. W4 and W4 and W. K4FXC.
Hi, David. And who answered that question? Thanks, whoever that was.
Yes, I mentioned I just did a search on Amazon for battery eliminator UV-S9, and several popped up in the search results. So they have cigarette lighter plugs on them, I think. Well, maybe not all of them, but anyway, there are quite a few that popped up in the search results. So it looks like that type of device is available for that model radio on Amazon, so I'm sure it's on eBay as well. I'll mention that I solder buck converters basically straight to the radios for the ones I'm using as nodes for the various radios I'm using, the Bofangs and whatnot, and that seems to work quite well. I'm using the LM2966, or excuse me, 2566. I think it's 2566, or anyway, the standard little 3 amp buck converters that you can get so readily, and I've drawn a 2596 it is, LM2596 is the part number. So I use those buck converters, and they've worked great on all the things I've used them with. But looks like there's a pre-made device on Amazon, and had a follow-up on the TMG 707 as well. Here in a second, K4FXC.
Thank you, David. And everybody was shaking their heads, and there was some posts in the Zoom room. I don't know if they're for your radio or not, but doing a quick search on Google, a million battery eliminators come up. Greg, I don't know if it's for your model number or not, but anyway, good luck. Thanks for your question.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. I did search at one point, but that was like a year ago, and the radio is like 3 years old, so I guess somebody finally put it up for sale. Thanks for everyone's time. Sorry for wasting some of it. K4MMX, back to net.
Comment.
The station with a comment, go ahead, please.
Quick comment, V376. Word of caution here. I did a AI search for the final PA yesterday. Just did a AI search and it provided a different answer. So caution, word of caution when using AI for park searches. Thank you again, V376 Mobile. Good night, everybody.
K4FXC.
Go ahead, David.
Yeah, I wanted to mention I pulled up my service manual for the TMG 707 and noticed that for the transmitter for the final sections for the VHF and UHF, it uses 2 hybrid modules for the transmitter, one for VHF. The VHF hybrid module is Mike 67746, M67746, and UHF is a Mike 55788, MR-24. So Mike 5788 MR is the model number. Doing a quick search online, neither one of them would be all, which doesn't surprise me. However, you may be able to repair the modules you've got. If you pull the cover off, then a lot of times those modules, some of the early ones, the ceramic substrates will just crack, and you just carefully solder across the cracks in the substrate, and they work again. I fixed quite a few of the 67746 that way. That was a common failure mode. Like the old ICOM 2100s, I think, would fail that way. But anyway, just a couple thoughts. So they are hybrid modules, and they seem to be very scarce, K4FXC.
Many of those modules are getting to... Thank you, David. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Charles. Thank you, David, for answering the questions. Thanks for all that asked the questions here tonight, and thanks for our 11 new users that we've gained here in the last hour and a half. So I'm going to turn it over to Roger, KO4QMM, and he's going to take you for a ways. I might be helping him at the end. We'll see how things go. So, thank you. Over to you, my friend Roger, KO4QMM. This is Dick, WB2JPQ.
Not so quick.
No, 2 weeks in a row. Kevin, I'm so embarrassed. And I got you right down here. My apologies.
That's fine. I'll forgive you. Anyway, thank you, Dick, and good evening, everyone. This is V3BZ Kevin with tonight's Swap and Shop. And I have 3 listings. 2 of them came in last minute after the net had already started. So first of all, we have Chris, N1KZQ in Nashua, New Hampshire, is looking to purchase an ICOM ID 5100. If you have one, somebody that does, contact Chris by email at chrisg1. Let's start that over. chrisg1071@gmail.com, or by telephone at 603-722-0486. Next up is Joe, WO7X in Portland, Oregon. Joe's selling an Yaesu FTDX 3000D. He's asking $1,050 or best offer. And you can contact Joe at joe@wo7x.com, and he's good on QRZ. That's WO7X. And finally, Steve, W3TN in Middletown, Maryland, is selling a Heil HDH single-sided headset for ICOM radios. It's lightly used and works perfectly. New, they sell for $35 to $40. He's selling his for $20 with free shipping within North America. And you can contact Steve at w3atn@arrl.net. And Steve is also good on QRZ. Again, that's W3ATN. All right, that is it for this evening. If you have anything for sale, trade, or want, or just go to eastcoastreflector.com, click on Contact ECR, and go to SwapNet Submissions, or just email me directly at ve3bz@rogers.com. All right, that's it. Back to you, Dick, VE3BZ.
Here. Thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Dick. Give you time to go to the concession stand there, get some coffee and popcorn. I've been sitting here idling like a diesel engine on a couple cups of coffee, ready to go. And it's just going to be kind of fun asking, do you use crimp or solder for your RF connectors? This is KO4QMM, and I will be starting with call district 6 tonight. So if you have a 6 in your call sign, come twice and slow. We have Mike, Valley Springs, California, K6AAN via text line. Anybody else with a 6 in their call sign?
Kilo India 6 Kilo, KI6WPK.
Was that Kilo India 6 Whiskey Kilo Kilo? Come back.
Here is Kilo India 6 Whiskey Papa Kilo, KI6WPK.
We got you that time, Bill. San Francisco, California, KI6WPK. And we got you, Charles, up there, Gritay, California, KC6UFM via text line. And the question of the evening is, do you use crimp or solder RF connectors? I have a feeling what you use, Charles. Good evening.
Good evening, Roger. Good to talk with you. Yeah, I use solder connectors, but the big secret to using solder on connectors is having the appropriate soldering iron for the shield. So, it's a little funny, but anybody wants to look into them, you can look for soldering stations that are designed for stained glass work. The one that I have is like 750 watts. Temperature controlled, so it heats up the shell and the shield very quickly without overheating the center or the insulator. That is the trick, is to not overheat the insulation, but get the shell and the shield hot enough to start. But otherwise, not much happening here in beautiful downtown Guatai, other than the fact that here we are on April 1st. And we are expecting 2 to 4 inches of snow overnight. So welcome to Southern California. Back over to you, Roger 73, KC6 UFM.
Boy, that's some wild weather there, Charles. And thank you for joining us tonight. And I'm sure a lot of us have some old soldering irons in our toolboxes. Just look awful, but you just keep them and they still work fine on certain wires. Thanks again, Charles. Let's move on to Mike, Valley Springs, California via text line, K6AAN. Good evening, Mike.
Well, good evening, everybody on the net. I definitely use solder connectors. Soldered a few of them myself, and they didn't turn out so well, so these days I pretty much just order them ready-made, but I always buy them soldered. I've had the crimp ones come apart on me before. Requires some expensive specialized tools to do those right, so with that, we will hand it back to you, sir. This is K6AA on 73.
No problem there, Mike. I've been known to buy them myself, and I end up with those little DX stickers. Thanks for joining us this evening. And I want to thank Bill for logging tonight, N2BH. Boy, he's been knocking out some of the calls before they even call in. Thanks, Bill. And speaking of Bill, let's go to San Francisco, California, KI6WPK. Good evening, Bill.
Well, good evening to you. Good evening to the net. I enjoyed the operator's description of using high-powered soldering irons. Anyway, I don't have any. I have all low-power stuff here, so I use crimped, pre-made factory wiring. However, I do know how to make or how to solder an RCA plug, if that means anything. Back to net, KI6WPK.
Nope, too late. He already got you down for crimp. You have a good evening there. This is Roger in Central Florida with the East Coast Reflector TechNet Night. And the question of the is, do you use crimp or solder for your RF connectors? And we're going to move on to the 7s. If you're in call district 7 with your call sign, come twice and slow. Kilo Golf 4, Hotel Kilo, Miami, Florida. Kilo Golf 4, Hotel Kilo, Miami, Florida.
Kilo 7, Zulu Sierra Hotel. Kilo 7, Zulu Sierra Hotel.
Kilo 7, could you come back again one more time?
Kilo 7, Zulu Sierra Hotel. Kilo 7, Zulu Sierra Hotel.
Alright, I think we got you that time. Jason, Milwaukee, Oregon. And we got Renee, KG4HHK, Miami Lakes, Florida. We're going to probably have till we get to the 4s. Right now we're taking 7s. And we got Alan, Lubbock, Texas, via text line, N7WZI. Anybody else with a 7 in their call sign that I didn't call? Alrighty then, we're going to move on to Alan, Lubbock, Texas, NWZI. Good evening, Alan. I don't think you're in Texas anymore. I think you're up in Oregon. Do you use crimp or soldered RF connectors?
Yep, you're absolutely right. I'm in Gresham, Oregon. Not in Lubbock, Texas anymore. I put Lubbock behind me. So, I'm back up here in Oregon with family. And I use, I've used both, but I always solder the center. Or the braid, the regular truck connector. I solder the braid as long as and the tip on the regular connector, but the crimp connectors, I definitely solder the center on those.
All right, Alan, we got you down for solder. Yeah, I pay attention once in a while, and I noticed you haven't been on the morning brew. It's a little bit early for you there, so they miss you. Thanks for joining us this evening, and we're going to move on to Jason, Milwaukee, Oregon, ZSH. Good evening, Jason.
Good evening to everybody on the net, and yeah, I have a hard time with call signs sometimes myself. I'm too new at this to know too much about, whether I'm going to use solder or crimped fittings. Probably solder. I am fair to middling good at soldering. So that's it. Hey, I just want to say thank you to the last batch went on there about the Baofeng battery eliminator. Thank you. I looked that up on Amazon just seconds ago, and I'll be ordering one of those. Thank you. I'm going to try to turn this into a mobile rig. KK7 ZSH.
You got it, Jason. Glad you had some help with that, and thanks for joining us. We get you down for solder. And I guess I just have to go with Kilo 7 Zulu Sierra Hotel. I almost do the phonetics better. Have a great evening, my friend. And next we're going to move on to the 8. This is KO4QMM. If you have an 8 in your call sign, come twice and slow.
K8BWK, K8BWK.
All right, we got K8BWK, Ben, Oregon, Ohio, and we got Roy, Blaisdell, BYU via text line. Anybody else with an 8 in their call sign that wants to join in? All right, we're going to head back up to Roy in Blaisdell, New York, KA8BYU via text line. Good evening, Roy.
Everyone, KA8BYU, solder all the way. Don't like the trip-on connectors. Had a friend have 2 of those fail, so I prefer solder. Back to you.
I agree with you, Roy. Thanks for joining us this evening and have a great evening. Let's move on to my friend Ben in Oregon, Ohio, K8BWK. Good evening, Ben.
Good evening, Roger, and everyone on Tuesday night TechNet. Solder, always use solder. I'm going to bed now, Roger. Everyone have a great night. Thanks, K8BWK.
QSL, Ben. Thanks for joining us this evening, and I'll be looking forward to hearing from you this morning if you're able. K8BWK. Let's move on to the 9s now. We're going to move on to District 9. If you have a 9 in your call sign, come twice in slowly.
This is 9Y4DX. 9 Yankee 4, Delta X-ray, Bertrand.
My buddy Bertrand, Trinidad and Tobago, 9Y4DX. Anybody else with a 9 in their call sign? All right, looks like me and you, my friend. 9Y4DX. Do you use crimp or solder for your RF connectors?
KO4QMM, Roger. This is 9Y4DX, Bertrand. I'm in Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean. Well, let me say a pleasant evening to all stations in the East Coast Reflector TechNet this evening. Hope everyone is doing well and keeping warm. Well, with respect to Trinidad, we are presently experiencing a temperature of around 78 degrees Fahrenheit. And we're going down this evening to just around 76. Not much cooler than it would be now, so we are going to have a warm night tonight. With respect to the question, I use soda. I think soda is the way to go. That's it from me. Back to you, net control. No further traffic. This is 9Y4. Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, Bertrand. We got you down for solder, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. 9Y4DX. We're going to move on to what it comes after that, I guess 0. Anybody with a 0 in their call sign, this is KO4QMM with the East Coast Reflector TechNet night. Anybody with a 9 in their call sign, come twice and slow.
N0MSS. Uniform.
I got N0MSS, Ross in Washington, North Dakota. That other one, was there another come back?
AA0 UU Alpha 0 Uniform.
Oh, we got you that time, Kenneth. Very nice and clear. Council Bluffs, Iowa. Anybody else with a 0? Twice and slow.
KF0 MHN Kilo Foxtrot 0 Mike Hotel November.
All right. We got KF0NMH. I do believe it is MHN. Bill in East Bethel, Minnesota. And AA0UU Kenneth, Council Bluffs, Iowa. And let's move on to Ross in Washington, N0MSS. Good evening, Ross.
Yeah, good evening, Roger, and everybody on the net. And to answer the night's question, I use both. At work, I normally use crimps unless I'm doing RG8. And even then, sometimes I use crimps. So, and LMR 600 as well. So, for the most part, we use both. Not much going on here tonight, so turn it back to you and just sit back and listen. N0MSS.
Ross, I would go with what you say because you've been doing it a lot longer than I have, and you've given me a few pointers before. Appreciate that. November 0MSS, thanks for joining us. Let's move on to Kenneth, AA0UU. Good evening, Kenneth.
I want to thank you for running the net here tonight and say hello to everybody out there that's listening and participating. And I'm glad to hear you say that you got it clear because I'm on my iPhone, and when I did an echo test, it sounded like I had some echo. So anyway, I'll make because I got to get out of here. And the answer to the question is I thought under my technique. Everybody have a good evening, 7-3s. This is AA0UU.
Yeah, thanks for joining us there, Kenneth. And yeah, you had a little bit of echo from Echo Link here, but nothing too bad that we couldn't handle. Thanks for joining us. We'll be looking for you down the line. And let's move on to Bill, East Bethel, Minnesota. I do believe KF0MHN. Good evening, Bill.
And I didn't hear it.
Mr. Bill, KF0MHN. You still there, sir?
I am here. I came in at the end, so what is the question tonight?
Oh, sorry about that. Do you crimp or solder RF connectors?
Well, if I was doing anything, I would solder it because I am not the best at doing things like that. My hands shouldn't be doing things like that yet until I get a little bit better at it. But I'd say if I do it, I would solder.
Bill must have already known what I was going to say. He had solder on there almost before you said it. So it's working out pretty good on this end. Thanks for joining us there, Bill, and we appreciate it. You have a great evening. Okay, this is KO4QMM, Roger in Central Florida. We're going to move on to the ones. If you have a 1 in your call sign, come twice and slow.
1 Kilo Yankee Ocean, November 1 Kilo Yankee Ocean.
November 1, Whiskey, Echo Bravo. November, Whiskey, Echo Bravo.
All right, we got Webb, Collierville, Tennessee, N1WEB. We got Nick, East Lip Terrace, New York, N1KYO. Anybody else with a call sign?
KC1 QPL, KC1 QPL.
You got in there in a hurry, didn't you, John? Sound good. KC1QPL, South St. Paul, Minnesota. All right, let's go to the top of this list. Lip Terrace, New York, N1KYO. Do you use crimp or solder RF connectors, Nick?
Hey, buddy. And as far as the question, I would say I like to solder just more of a permanent fix to it, you know. That's the way I go. It's a nice solid connection there.
Thank you for joining us tonight, Nick. You were a little bit hummy there, but we got your answer there, solder. Thanks for joining us. Let's move on to my friend Webb, Collierville, N1WEB. Good evening, Webb.
Thank you, Roger, and good evening to the net. Well, Roger, you can put me down for solder, but in full disclosure, I've been a ham now for maybe 3 or 4 years, so most of the cables I bought were actually pre-terminated. I bought the sizes I needed, but I think as those cables go through their life cycle, they're going to be cut and spliced and soldered, probably several times before they're all used up. But yeah, I would normally solder that. And with that, I'll look forward to the 20-meter net on Thursday. N1WEB, back to net.
Thank you, Webb, for joining us this evening. And yep, look forward to the 20-meter net. You always sound good, and hope to see a lot more people there. Thanks again. Let's move on to John, Paul, Minnesota, 1QPL. Good evening, John.
Well, good evening, Roger. You're doing a fine job as always. KC1 QPL, good evening. Always solder. Always. I don't know, someone took lead out of the solder. I don't know what they're doing with that, but anyway, that's all I got. 7-3, thanks for having me. KC1 QPL, back to you, Roger.
Thanks for being there, John. Would be no fun if you weren't there answering some questions. And this is KO4QMM. We're going to move on to the twos. And via text line, we already have JPP Bob, Gallatin, Tennessee. WA2UUS Joel, Buffalo, New York. W2RBC Randy, West Seneca, New York. VK2DY Robert, Kelly Ridge, New South Wales. W2AJR Andy, Cheektowaga, New York. W2EM Chuck, Lancaster, New York. Anybody else with a 2 in their join the fun tonight? Come with your call sign.
Kilo Echo 2, Charlie Charlie Kilo. Kilo Echo 2, Charlie Charlie Kilo.
Net control, please add KD2VNU. KD2VNU. W2KJ, W2KJV.
Zulu Sierra 2 Echo Charlie. Zulu Sierra 2 Echo Charlie.
All right, we got a nice list there. Start from the bottom there. Tom, Portalist, Z2EC, Tony, Homosassa, Florida, W2KJV, Derby Dan from Derby, New York, KD2BNU, Matthew, Frankfurt, New York, KE2CCK, Chuck Lane. Got him. All right, we're at the top of this list. KD2JPP, Bob, Gallatin, Tennessee. Do you use or solder RF connectors, Bob?
Oh, good evening, Roger. As far as the question, I go with Old Faithful SATA. If I could also, real quick, compliments to that magazine. It is fantastic. And I'll get right out of here. Everybody stay safe and have a great week.
Cut off pretty quick there, but we did get solder. Thank you for joining us this evening. And let's move on to Joel via text line, Buffalo, New York, WA2UUS. How about you, Joel?
Good evening, Roger, and everyone else on the net. As for the question tonight, I prefer to solder. There might be some jobs that I have to crimp, but I don't trust that. I'm old-fashioned, I guess. And I join Bob in thanking Vicki and the others for the wonderful magazine. And I wish everyone to be well and be safe. Thank you, Roger.
Oh, thank you for joining us, Joel. Appreciate it, and you sound good tonight. Let's move on to my buddy, my 20-meter net controller buddy, Randy in West Seneca, New York, W2RBC via text line. Good evening, Randy.
Good evening, Roger, Bill, and everyone on the TechNet. I've used crimped RF connectors for many years. I do solder the center conductor. With the right tooling, crimped connectors are really reliable. High percentage of high-end industrial and many of the mill cables also use crimps because the crimps form cold metallic weld joints, and they hold up really well. Back to net control, 73 to all, W2, RBC.
Like Ross, I go with anything you say, Randy. You're way ahead of me on that. And I tell you what, if you ever need an audio check on HF, he's the man to go to. Thanks for joining us, Randy. Let's move on to Robert, Kellyville Ridge, New South Wales, VK2DY. Good evening, Robert. And do you use crimp or solder RF connectors?
Good afternoon. This is Robert, VK2DY in northwestern Sydney. It's currently 24 degrees Celsius. I think it's 76 Fahrenheit, something like that. Sky is absolutely blue and clear. It's a beautiful autumn day here in Sydney today. I would say solar. That would be my answer to the question. VK2DY. Back to that.
Sale, Robert. Great signal tonight. And yeah, we're already into the 90s here in Florida. The air conditioners are working. Thanks for joining us. Let's move on to Andy, Cheektowaga, New York, via text line W2AJR. Good evening, Andy.
Good evening, Roger, everybody on the net. I use solder, strictly because that's all I've ever used. Never tried crimp connectors, so maybe one day. 7-3, all have a great week. Back to you.
Yeah, I'm sure it takes some practice for that crimping to be just right. Thanks for joining us. Let's move on to my buddy Chuck, W2EM, Lancaster, New York. Good evening, Chuck.
Good morning, Roger. Good evening, Roger, and the rest of the group here. I'd say I use both, but probably more crimp than anything. If it's got a on insulator, I don't mind soldering it. If it's got a foam insulator, no matter what you're going to do, you're going to deform it a little bit. Even if you can't see it, it's going to melt a little bit underneath there and screw things up. If you solder it, or if you crimp it correctly, if you have the right tools and do a right job, it's going to come out great. I've never had problems with crimp, and I solder the middle connector. They do make crimp them. I don't like them. I rather touch up the tip of the solder. But most of your commercial ones now are solder, and they're good. Or not solder. Most of the ones now that you buy factory made are crimp. Alrighty, it's getting late. So good night. W2EM.
Thanks for getting the answer in there before it got too late there, Chuck. We appreciate it. We'll probably see you tomorrow around Zoom or something. Let's move on to Matthew, Frankfurt, New York, KE2CCK. How about it, Matthew? Do you crimp or solder RF connectors?
This is KE2CCK, Matthew. I solder. It's been something new for me, and I like it, and it works great. I've learned that using a heavier duty solder gun is better than using like the pencil style soldering guns, at least in my case, and I've had good luck. So that is my answer. This is KE2CCK, back to net control.
All right, Matthew, we got you down for solder, and thanks for joining us tonight. You have a good signal, too. And let's move on to my buddy Dan, Derby, New York, KD2VNU. Good evening, Derby. Dan?
Good evening, Roger. I'll keep it short and sweet. I do both, and as long as you got the right tools and technique, it all works well. Return back to net, KD2VNU.
No worries, Dan. I'm all hyped up on coffee anyhow, just ripping through them. Appreciate you joining us, KD2VNU. Let's move on to Tony, Homosassa, Florida, W2KJV. Good evening, Tony.
Hey, good evening, Roger. My idea went off. Sorry about the delay. Yeah, I use both. I used to exclusively use solder, but I have a real nice prep tool and a crimper, and I've been using the crimper lately, solder, the center conductor, of course, and I will occasionally even use a fitting that's let's see, I can't think of the name of it. Senior moment there. Anyway, back to you, Roger. Everyone have a great night. W2KJV. Compression fitting. I'll use a compression fitting now and again. W2KJV.
Tony. It's the ideas going off and senior moments are going to happen, but we got you down for both. Appreciate you joining us tonight. Let's move on to Tom, Port Elizabeth, ZS2EC. Good evening, Tom.
Good evening, everybody. It's going to be 17 degrees Celsius, and with a question, shoulder. That's all I've got to say. Enjoy the evening.
Thank you, Sir Tom, for joining us this evening, and we got you down for solder. We'll catch you on the next net. You're there. Now, since I think Dick got stuck at the concession stand, so I got the okay to just keep on going. So anybody with a 3 in their call sign, this is Kilo Oscar 4, Mike with the East Coast Reflector Net. If you have a 3 in your call sign, join the fun. Come call twice and slow.
WB3GTM, Whiskey Baker 3 Golf Tango Mike. Victor Echo 3, India, Quebec, form, VE3IQU.
KB3 VPK, KB3 DP.
All right, we got Mary, Easton, PA, KB3 VPK, Reg, Brampton, Ontario, Canada, VE3IQU, and Mike, Western Vermont, WB3 GTM. Anybody else with a 3 in their call sign? Boy, I got to keep an eye on my logger here, N2BH. He's doing such a good. He's already got 4s lined up. You're knocking them out there, Bill. All right, let's go to Mike, Westford, Vermont, WB3GTM. Do you use crimp or solder RF connectors?
There was some coaxes that the coax the braid didn't solder very well, and the crimp connection was actually much better. And I tend to think that most people that solder unless they buy a silver tint expensive Amphenol connector and high-end coax, they're probably not going to have a great solder job anyhow. I think these days, I think the crimp connectors work excellent. They work very well. And if you think about it, it's not the same exactly, but high pressure hydraulic hoses and everything else are crimped these days. There's thousands of pressure on them. Hey, thanks for running the net. Thanks for checking me in. 7-3 and back to net control. This is WB3GTM.
Thank you, Mike, for joining us. And yeah, I've been to hydraulic places before, and it's pretty neat to watch them put those clamps on and stuff and get them all pressurized. Appreciate you joining us this evening. Let's move on to Reg, Brampton, Ontario, Canada, VE3IQU. Good evening, Reg.
And a very good evening to you there, Roger, and everybody around the net tonight. In the background there. Always a pleasure to check into this net and listen to all the goings on. And And right now we're just sitting down at dinner, believe it or not. I know it's late, but one of those days. Anyhow, not too much going on here other than that. Beautiful weather we've been having the last few days, and I'm sure you guys have been in that same boat down there in the Buffalo area especially. So the wife and I are fine, and we're looking forward to spring when it gets here. I mean, officially it's here, but the last few days I would have much. But it's a coming. How's it back to you there, Roger? Have a great week, and see you again next time. 3-3 IQ you.
Thanks for joining us this evening, and we're going to move on to Mary, Easton, PA, KB3VPK. And somebody mentioned it might have been your birthday or something. If not, okay.
Hey, April Fool's, not my birthday. I just like to use that date to fool people. It's in April, but not today. Anywho, I like to use solder connectors when I'm making cables if I need to do anything. But the last cables I just bought with connectors already on there, so I don't have to fiddle with it. So that's what I do. Back to you, KB3VPK.
Joining us tonight, and Dick, you got one coming soon. He knows somehow. Thanks for joining us again. Let's move on to the 4s. This is KO4QMM with the East Coast Reflector TechNet Night. Anybody with a 4 in their call sign that would like to join in the fun, come with your call twice and slow. Kilo Romeo 4 Alpha Hotel Whiskey. Kilo Romeo 4 Alpha Hotel Whiskey in Orlando, Florida.
KQ4 Yankee Bravo. That's KQ4 Yankee Bravo. It's Dave here in Greenville, North Carolina.
Kilo Quebec 4 Foxtrot Hotel Echo. Kilo Quebec 4 Foxtrot Hotel Echo.
Kilo Oscar 4 Sierra Zulu Juliet. Kilo Oscar 4 Sierra Zulu Juliet.
Whiskey 4 Foxtrot Whiskey November. Whiskey 4 Foxtrot Whiskey November.
Boy, I tell you what, that was neat and orderly. And I do believe Bill got everybody there. Let's start at the bottom. 4FWN Dan, Sanford, Florida. KO4SZJ Rick, Lady Lake, Florida. KQ4SHE Pat, Harvest, Alabama. KQ4YYB David, Greenville, North Carolina. KR4AHW Tennyson, Winter Park, Florida. KQ4ZGF Brian, Rockhold, Kentucky via text line. And we got KO4FRR Joe via text line. WW4NEW via text line Mike. KY4N via text line Scott. KY4SOG Mike text line. KK4SED via text line and K4GDS via text line Gil, Orlando, Florida, and KG4HHK, top of the line, Renee. Good evening, Renee. Do you use crimp or solder RF connectors? Know if you heard me there or not. KG4HHK. Must have been an in and outer. Let's move on via text line to Gil, Orlando, Florida, K4GDS. Good evening, Gil. Maybe he snuck an in and out there on us. Let's move on to KK4SED. Are you there, Les? Claremont, Florida. Some of these people need to be in on the in and out. Let's move on to KW4SOG via text line. Mike, Huntsville, Alabama. Are you there, Mike?
Mike is here. Good evening, everybody on the TechNet. I'm really new at this, but I'm a solder guy. I've tried to crimp once and it didn't go so well, so I'm back to soldering and it seems to work every time, and I'm going to keep up with that. On another note, Anderson connectors are the best thing since sliced bread. KW4SOG, 73 off.
USL, Mike. I think you're doing a great job. At least you're pushing that PTT switch and talking to people. That's the best thing out there. Appreciate you joining us. Let's move on to KY4NB via text line. Scott, Memphis, Tennessee. Good evening, Scott.
KO4QMM, KY4NB in the net. Well, hi there, Roger. Thanks for taking my check-in and everybody behind the scenes. And hi to Brother Randall coming up with the 5 from Spring, Texas. Well, I would have to say solder, although, I haven't done any of that since I was a kid, and just a handful of years here with my licenses. The need is not, well, yes, I have some headphones I need to fix, so I need to find the soldering iron. But anyway, everything's been put on there already, the connectors with the cable, what little bit I bought, and, for the HF rig and the VHF, UHF. So let's go with solder. Back to you and talk to everybody in the morning. Everybody have a good evening or a good day if you're in where Robert is in Australia. KY4NB, back to net, 7-3.
Home of Elvis and barbecue. Thanks for joining us, Scott. Appreciate it. You have a wonderful evening. Let's move on to WW4NEW via text line. Mike, Pembroke Pines, Florida. You use crimp or solder?
Most of my RF connectors came prefabbed onto the coax, but the ones that I do install, I solder both the pin and the shield. And I use solder with 4% silver in it, which takes a little higher temperature, but it's also much, much more conductive than lead.
Thanks for joining us this evening. Great signal. And before we move on to Joe, my call sign is KO4QMM, Roger in Central Florida. Let's move on to my buddy Joe in Sorrento, Florida, KO4FRR. Good evening, Joe.
Well, good evening, Roger. This is Joe, KO4FRR. Good to hear you. To answer the question, I Amazon it. Other than that, I'll talk to you later.
Always good to talk to you too, Joe. I think we talked on every band there is. Kind of funny. Appreciate you joining us. Let's move on to KQ4ZGF via text line. Brian, Rockhold, Kentucky. Good evening.
Good evening. Thanks for doing that. I've just done one. I'm new to this, so I'm still doing a lot of DIY stuff, but 100% of my soldering projects, or 100% of my connector projects have been soldering. And that was just one project. So put me down for soldering. Thanks so much. For the GS back to net control.
Thank you for joining us this evening, and let's move on to Tennyson, Winter Park, Florida, KR4AHW. Good evening, and do you use crimp or solder for RF connectors? And good evening.
Good evening. This is Kilo Roger 4 Alpha Hotel Whiskey, Tennyson, coming to you from the Taco Bell parking lot. You can put me down for soldering. Soldering is probably one of the first things my father taught me how to do as a child, besides working on engines and vehicles. And I spend a lot of my free time soldering because I'm very big into circuit bending older music equipment. And as some of you might know, I'm an audio engineer. I go to school here at Full Sail in Winter Park. So yeah, you can put me down for soldering. Thank you so much for hosting the net. As always, it's a pleasure talking to you, and I hope everyone on the net has a great night. 73s, this is Kilo Roger 4 Alpha Hotel Whiskey.
QSL, thanks for joining us. I remember that Full Sail place. I used to always have to run for parts and stuff for the company I worked down in Pine Hills, and I do believe that was over by the university there, Aloha, something like that. But University Drive, but yeah, I remember that. Thanks for joining us again. Let's move on to Dave at Greenville, North Carolina, KQ4YYB. David?
Yeah, I'll say good evening to everybody. It's on this end, it's always been solder. Definitely used rosin core. Have used some silver solder on this end. RF connectors have always been solder.
Sounds like you know what you're doing there, my friend. Thanks for joining us this evening. Let's move on to Pat, Harvest, Alabama, KQ4FHE. Good evening, Pat.
Good evening, Roger, and everybody else on the net. This is KQ4FHE. I'm planning on building a couple of antennas soon, and I'm going to use solder on my connections. 73s to everybody. Everybody have a good night. This is KQ4HE, back to your net control.
And thank you for joining us this evening, Pat. You and your family have a great evening. Let's move on to Rick, Lady Lake, Florida, KO4SZJ. Good evening, Rick.
Good evening, everybody. This is Rick, KO4SZJ. I prefer solder. I'm not that good at crimping the ends. But other than that, everybody have a good evening, and 73s to you. Back to net control. This is KO4SZJ.
Thank you for joining us this evening, Rick. I remember crimping old speaker wires and stuff. You always ended up with one little wire barely hanging. Never worked very well. And let's move on to Dan, Sanford, Florida, W4FWN. Good evening, Dan.
Success in soldering the shield.
mostly due to the fact of the metal, and it doesn't really take heat that much. However, Charles, UFM out in California, had a good suggestion of just more heat and just apply it real quick. And so I might think into that. So far, it's been solder the center pin and try to deal with the shield the best I can. So back to net control as W4FWN.
Thank you for joining us this evening, Dan. Hope you have a wonderful evening, too. Let's move on to Dawn, Hollywood, Florida, via text line W4PPX. Good evening, Dawn, and you use crimp or solder RF connectors.
Good evening, Roger, ham enthusiast, and everybody else on the TechNet tonight. I use solder, mainly solder. I tried some of the crimping, but I always go back to the solder. Hope everybody has a good time. Thanks for checking me in. W4PPX, back to you.
I think Roger owns that in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. But I could say KO4QMM Roger Ham Enthusiast, so I could get away with it. But I don't know if you... Thanks for joining us. I guess we're going to move on to the 5s next. I just got told that Dick was still in the concession stand waiting on the butter machine now. They had to get some new butter or something, so he's stuck here. Let's move on to the 5s. If you have a 5 in your call sign, come twice and slow.
Bravo 5, India Tango Tango, WB5IGT.
Well, we got you, Chris, Beaumont, Texas, WB5ITT. We got Randall Springs, Texas, K5RLR. Bill, Hobbs, New Mexico, KI5PMI. Anybody else with a 5? Alrighty then, we're going to move up to the top of the list here. KI5PMI. Bill, Hobbs, New Mexico. Do you use crimp or solder RF connectors?
Good evening, Roger, everybody on the net. I like the solder, sir. Hope everybody has a good night. KI5PMI. Back to net.
We got you, my friend, down for solder. You have yourself a great evening. Let's move on to Bill Hobbs. Oh, we just did Bill. Let's move on to Randall Springs, Texas, K5RLR. Good evening, my friend.
Well, good evening there to you, Roger, and everybody else on the net this evening. And hello to Brother Scott out there if you're still listening. Much appreciated for the wonderful gift today. K5RLR. I would have to say, put me in the category of trying. That's about all I can say to that. It's normally, I try as hard as I can to answer questions, followed by a few bad words, and then followed by an Amazon order. But at least I do try. Hope everybody has a good evening. 73's too well, and we'll see everybody here again tomorrow on the broom. Thanks for running the net, Roger. We do appreciate it. K5RLR, back to you, sir.
QSL, Randy. Thanks for joining us tonight. And yeah, Scott's not here tonight. He's on assignment. I think he's got the Water Buffalo Lodge meeting tonight, so he'll be busy. Let's move on to Chris, Beaumont, Texas, WB5ITT. Good evening, Chris.
Good evening to everybody on the TechNet from WB5ITT. Well, I use both. Actually, I use 3, solder, crimp, and captive.
and just used all three today at work, as a matter of fact. Some connectors are solder only. A lot of mine at work are crimp-on, or in the case of celiac connectors, such as Trilogy, type N's, etc., those are captive with the screw-down clamp on the shield. So all three, as a matter of fact, and I've had excellent results with all three. WB5IGT, back to that.
QSL Chris, thanks for joining us from Beaumont, Texas there. We got you down. WB5ITT. All right, we got to the list of all the districts. Now it's time to play cleanup. I get to do that too, which I enjoy. Anybody anywhere now that missed out on the question of the evening, come with your call sign, twice and slow.
Victor Alpha 3, Charlie Delta Victor, and I missed the question.
Kilo Delta 6, Delta India Quebec, KD6DIQ.
K4MMX, K4MMX.
Alright, from the bottom up, we got K4MMX Craig, Oakland Park, Florida. KD6DIQ Todd, Yucca Valley, California. And VA3CDV Cal, Stony Creek, Canada. Anybody else to get in on the action here? The last call for anybody's call sign. Alright, I think that's it. We got Randy from Salinas, California, KMWG. Let's go to the top of the list here. Cal, Stony Creek, Canada, VA3CDV. The question of the evening is, do you use crimp or solder RF connectors? Good evening.
Good evening. I'm not sure. I've never connected stuff on myself. I always bought cables that were pre-connected, so I'd have to pass on the question, but I'm listening along. Back to you.
Well, appreciate you listening along this evening and joining in. You have yourself a great evening. Let's move on to Todd, Yucca Valley, California, KD6DIQ. Good evening, Todd.
Good evening. I solder. If you buy the right cable, it won't melt. KD6DIQ.
All right, Todd, thanks for joining us this evening. Appreciate it. You have yourself a great evening. Let's move on to Craig, Oakland Park, Florida, K4MMX. Good evening, Craig. And do you use crimp or solder RF connectors?
I solder, and a lot of you are going to think I'm crazy on RG8 and the big connectors. I sometimes use a torch for additional heating because my soldering iron not enough to solder the braid. K4MMX back to net, 730.
Thanks for joining us, Craig. Great signal there. You have yourself a good evening. Let's move on to Randy, last on the list, Salinas, California, KM6MWG. Good evening, Randy.
Lately, I've been using
that's it. We got you, Randy, Salinas, California, for Crimp. Thanks for joining us this evening. And I want to thank everybody. I enjoyed it. Hope everybody else did. On behalf of WB2JBQ and N2BH Bill, did some wonderful logging tonight. I want to thank everybody for joining us. And we're going to put the East Coast Reflector back to its normal amateur use. KO4QMM, Roger, clear. 73 zone.